So Matt Chapman is going to be staying with the Giants. Why can't the A's find players like Matt Chapman?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for a while now, and we're basically going to be wrapping up my sixth full season here on the Locked On Podcast. I can't believe it's been 6 years already. Feels like we just started. Then again, like for most people, if you say, hey, remember 2 years ago? When I hear someone say that, I assume they're talking about 2018. Let me know if you think that's the same way. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you're listening to us every day, make sure to post that hashtag EverydaySully if you have a comment. And today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about today. And by the way, let's go through the trivia question first. I'm sorry, I almost got ahead of myself. I brought up the trivia question, and it was about Yankee closers, which I think might be appropriate when you consider that the Yankees closer situation is completely in flux now, or at least it should be. I said under Joe Torre, the Yankees went to the World Series several times, and almost all the ALCSs that Joe Torre managed were clinched by Mariano Rivera. John Wetland clinched the first one. Aaron Boone clinched the last pennant that Joe Torre won with the Yankees in 2003. But what other Yankee pitcher clinched an ALCS for Joe Torre? And I asked him for a couple of days, and no one got it. And Scott Harshmeyer, guy said, was it Ramiro Mendoza? Yes, it was. Ramiro Mendoza, who later was on the Red Sox, which was weird, was a Red Sox killer. And while El Duque Hernandez did indeed have a wonderful 1999 ALCS, and he did win the ALCS MVP that year, it should have been Mendoza, because Mendoza got out of a key rally in Game 2, squashed a Red Sox rally in Game 2, and then came out of the bullpen and shut them down, the Red Sox down in Game 5. And I believe that Joe Torre recognized that. And instead of going automatically to Rivera, Mendoza, who had pitched the 8th inning, let him in there to pitch the 9th and clinch the pennant and get the save. And it was indeed Ramiro Mendoza, who some Yankee fans felt that he was like a double agent with the 2004 Red Sox, but I digress. By the way, this is the last thing I'll say in Clay Holmes in the strange press conference that Aaron Boone gave in the wake of Clay Holmes' latest disaster as the Yankee closer. He says it's too early to make a determination of whether or not he should be the Yankee closer. It's too early? It's September. Labor Day's in the rearview mirror. You have about 20 games, basically 24, 25 games to figure this out. And again, I am going to make it easy for the Yankees. Here's the solution. Use the reliever whose numbers are best for the situation. If you don't have a Rivera or Wetland in 96 or Uehara in 2013 or Raleigh Fingers or Sparky Lyle, Dan Quisenberry or Lee Smith or whomever, if you don't have that, don't act like you do. I've used this as the example of if you have a movie which doesn't have a major movie star, a Tom Hanks, a Denzel Washington, a Julia Roberts, a George Clooney, someone who's a major movie star, you don't put the face of the star of your ensemble film as if you have a major movie star. You show the poster as being an ensemble movie. Okay? It's the same thing. If it's Weaver, if it's Canely, whomever it is, you say, this pitcher matches up best with the players who are coming on there. And if it means you have a year where you have multiple players getting saves in the postseason, which you've had that recently, you have to go all the way back to last year to see that happen. Sometimes you say, this person's been the closer the whole year, but do you know what? We may have to make a switch at the last minute. You've seen that happen because of injury when Adam Wainwright became the closer for the 2006 World Series champion St. Louis Cardinals. But you've also seen years like when Bruce Bochy has had to make changes. Like, well, we're going to go with Romo. Oh, we're going to go with Santiago Castillo. Oh, we're going to go with Madison Bumgarner. You saw the Phillies very stubbornly stay with Brad Lidge, who was unbelievable in 2008 and a mess in 2009, and they kept giving him the ball, and ultimately it cost them the World Series. Just because it's the player's been doing it that way all year long doesn't mean you have to give it to him when the game counts. Dustin Hermanson led the White Sox in saves in 2005, and he had one appearance in 3 rounds of the postseason because he was hurt, and when he came back, he was no longer effective. Hand the ball to Bobby Jenks, and he's the one jumping up and down. Mix and match. All right. Other big news happened just before I started recording this, so I kind of had to mix and match how I was going to do this show. But Matt Chapman, the news release came about 25 minutes ago, and I read it. Matt Chapman, who signed a contract from Toronto with San Francisco that had tons of opt-outs. He had opt-out this, said opt-out that, and a player option here, team option there. Well, all those were rolled up into a ball and thrown into McCovey Cove. As the official announcement came about, and it says the Giants agreed to a 6-year contract extension with Matt Chapman. This is the news release as that was on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now. The Giants and infielder Matt Chapman agreed to a 6-year contract extension beginning next year through the 2030 season, worth $151 million to Matus. He'll earn $25 million each season. Good work if you can get it. And he'll be making over $100,000 donation to the Giants Community Fund each year. Blah, 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 blah. Giants president of operation for David Bob Melvin, third baseman Matt Chapman, and Chapman's attorney Scott Boras will be available to the media tomorrow at 10:30 in the press room. I like this move for the Giants. Of course, it could backfire him. Anytime you sign a long-term contract, someone whose 30th birthday is in the rearview mirror is dangerous. Every year we go through which team made this bad contract or that bad contract, and every year it's a contract that was celebrated when it first happened. But he's 31. He still has power. He's still a good defensive third baseman. And if the Giants want to get off the schneid, this is a team that has made the postseason once since Bruce Bochy left, once since the 2016 frustrating wild card year where they beat the Mets and they had a couple of chances to basically put the Cubs on the ropes, and they didn't. And they lost. And since then, and by the way, that Obama was president when that happened. All right. And it's been a bit. Since then, they've made the postseason once, the 107-win season of 2021, which is looking more and more like a fluke every year. But having Chapman is a good step. The Giants have been drooling to sign a major free agent. And, they try to go for Ohtani or they try to go for Judge. I think they should go full blast on Soto. And that they have a guy who is an all-star, who is a gold glove, a platinum glove winner, has pop, who's from the Bay Area, probably should have been in Oakland A for life, but isn't. And by the way, let's review something here. As some of you know, I'm also the host of Locked On A's this year. And the A's are in a predicament because the management isn't spending money. They've been basically tanking the team to make their move to the move to Las Vegas, which I still do not believe is happening. I actually still think they're going to stay in Sacramento. But even that, as I mentioned on the show, I went to Sacramento in a day game in July. It's going to be brutal there. They've whiffed on draft picks, but they've also whiffed on trades. They had Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman, first-round pick in 2014, was an excellent player for the A's, but he asked for more than $3.25 an hour, so naturally he had to be traded. He was traded just before the start of the 2022 season in an unabashed salary dump. And when you take a look at this, they was traded to the Blue Jays for 4 minor leaguers. Now, it could be if some of those players hit, they could have, wow, they got 2 or 3 players back for Chapman and built a team. Except they completely whiffed. Gunnar Hoglund, one of the prospects they got from Toronto, has played 0 games in the major leagues. Zach Loke, Kevin Smith, they might as well have gotten the director of Clerks. Zach Loke, Kevin Smith, and Kirby Snead were the other 3 players. Every one of those players has either been cut, waived, or non-tendered. So they essentially gave Matt Chapman to the Toronto Blue Jays for 4 guys. That was for the 2022 season. So 2022, 2023, and 2024, the A's could have had Matt Chapman. Instead, they have 4 guys who are not in the organization. Good job. But the Bay Area guy, who oddly is from Victorville, which is, I think, probably closer to Sacramento, if I know my Northern California geography correct. But he is a graduate of Cal State Fullerton, as I will be in just a few months. I'm sure your pal Sully is earning his master's degree. So good for Cal State Fullerton graduate Matt Chapman. And soon I'll be a Cal State Fullerton graduate as well. So maybe Matt Chapman and I should, I don't know, get together, talk about being Fullerton Titans, and seeing if maybe, I don't know, you could give me some of that hundreds of millions of dollars he's picking up. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever 24/7 sports news streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube and on Amazon TV at the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. It was an interesting night of baseball. You saw a combined no-hitter in Wrigley Field, and it was the first no-hitter by a Cubs pitcher in Wrigley Field since 1972, since the year I was born. And I'm 52. I'm not a young man anymore. I'm young for one thing, and that's Alzheimer's disease. Other than that, no matter what, you say, well, he was 52. Imanaga threw 7 no-hit innings and had not reached the 100-pitch mark yet. So naturally was relieved in a game that was an absolute blowout. I'm going to have Sam from Locked On Cubs as a guest tomorrow, and I'm going to try to figure out why in a 12-0 game, and the Cubs are peripheral contenders at best right now. Why the hell was that a combined no-hitter? I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I don't mind combined no-hitters if they're combined no-hitters for a reason. you've seen situations like where either there's an injury or the guy's not let up any hits yet, but he's totally gassed. Sometimes it's someone who you just know we can't. They're not going to be able to make it. They're starting to wobble. But that was not what was happening here. Or if it's a situation where someone is coming off a major injury, and you're thinking like, do you know what? This guy is throwing a no-hitter, yes, but we need that arm. Well, he's not coming off a major injury. There's some reason that he couldn't have at least gone out in the eighth. I mean, good for. I mean, the two people I am happy for are the two Cubs relievers who get to have their name written in the history books whenever there's going to be a listing of no hitters in baseball history. Their name's going to be listed amongst them. Hold on, let me open up the box score here. That is the one thing I do like in a no hitter. But like Pearson and Hodge get to have their name listed amongst Cubs pitchers who have thrown no hitters. I think it's cool. The Porter Hodge, this is his 32nd appearance in his major league career, and he gets to have that listed in his life there. And Nate Pearson, who again, he's pitched for a few teams over the last few years, and he gets to have his name listed there. Good for him. But Imanaga, 7 innings, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, and he threw 95 pitches. I mean, was there a reason he was yanked? And was there something I'm not aware of here? And even more, so that happened. At least they got to finish it. We mentioned the Giants with Matt Chapman. Well, the Giants didn't have their best game by any stretch of the imagination. They lost 6-4. It turned out to be a close game to Arizona. But for the first 6 innings, the Giants were being no-hit by Zac Gallen, an ace. And Gallen struck out 8 batters, walked 4 over 6 innings. He did hit the 100-pitch mark, so I could imagine saying, okay, he's hit that mark, I guess. I mean, and the Diamondbacks really are in a pennant chase, so maybe they're thinking, all right, we want to have our best pitcher healthy. Okay, but yeah, and he did strike out a lot of batters, which raises your pitch total. He did walk a bunch of batters, that also raises your pitch total. But don't you have him come out for the 7th? Ginkel came out and immediately let up a hit and a home run, and immediately put them in the behind the 8 ball there. Now, fortunately for the Diamondbacks, Doval's not been good at all this year for San Francisco, and he let up 2 runs and ultimately just gave the game right back. But it was just a regular 6-4 win where your ace happened to be throwing a no-hitter at the time. I don't understand. I mean, this isn't a macho thing for me. When you guys throwing a masterpiece, don't you let him finish it? I mean, the Cubs one bothers me more, but at the same time, Gallen was throwing a freaking no-hitter. Let him try to finish it up. If he lets up a hit right away and he said, you know what, we're going to relieve you right now, I get it. But don't you want to have some of these moments? Wouldn't that electrify the team? That would electrify me. We'll come back. I'm going to answer a couple of MVP stuff questions and then pay tribute to a Hall of Famer whose birthday is today. Hey, you know all about PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get on the action in most states, including Texas, Georgia, and right here in California. And they put your members first over at PrizePicks, which means All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 5 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 when you play $5. You don't even need to win to earn the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. And right now, let's hear a little bit from our good friends over at Gametime. Now, Gametime is the best place to get your tickets, whether you're going to a baseball game, a football game, theater, comedy, or more. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have great methods to get your tickets and guarantee it. Gametime Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You get all-in pricing, no surprise fees there. Seat views, you get a panoramic seat for the seat in the app before you buy it. The lowest price guarantee on Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB. You know how to spell that. For $20 off, download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, make sure to listen to Locked On A's, hosted by me, your pal Sully. For a few more weeks, I am going to be doing double duty, 10 episodes a week from Locked On, both the Locked On MLB and Locked On A's, as we're winding down the final few weeks of the Oakland A's history, and you get to see me go to Oakland and see the final game, which I have tickets for already. Thanks so much. Even if you're not an A's fan, you'll enjoy Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, I got a question from Carlos Ortiz. I don't know what XE5EK means. I don't know. Maybe there's a whole bunch of Carlos Ortizes. Do you think Lindor deserves to win the MVP, or does it go to Ohtani? It's Ohtani. Ohtani is the most valuable player in the National League. Lindor, you got to give Lindor nothing but credit. Lindor, since he caught fire, the Mets caught fire. This year, Lindor became the player they thought they were acquiring from Cleveland a few years ago. And he has been everything you could ask for. He has come in big in the clutch as a hitter, as a fielder. The team has rallied behind him. There is not a doubt in my mind that he is certainly an MVP finalist and probably should be the runner-up. You know, for a while I would have said Bryce Harper, but I think absolutely he is having an absolutely remarkable season and is a big reason why the Mets are still knocking on the door of a playoff spot, even though they basically were on the verge of folding like a tent. And if they make the playoffs, I'm going to eat just tons and tons of crow for me saying that they shouldn't have gone for it. I did that. I said that left and right during the trade deadline. I said this team should trade because they're not a playoff team. They have a bunch of contracts that are expiring. They could get something for those because they have things to sell in a seller's market. And I thought they could get more for some of the expiring contracts than they normally would have. Now, and I was adamant about that. If the Mets make the playoffs, I will be wrong. And he's fantastic. So I'm not taking anything away from the glorious season that Francisco Lindor is having. That being said, you have a man who's going to hit 50 home runs with 50 stolen bases. You have a man who's going to lead the league in slugging, OPS, OPS plus, total bases, and I know we're not supposed to mention it, but runs scored. If you like traditional stats, he's got them. If you like advanced stats, you've got him. If you like anything, I mean, if you like wins above replacement, he leads it. If you like war for position players, he leads it. You like war for offensive players, he leads it. You like, as I said, slugging, on base percentage, he leads it. You like home runs, he leads it. Adjusted OPS plus, he leads it. Runs created, he leads it. Adjusted batting runs, he leads it. Adjusted batting wins, he leads it. Extra base hits, he leads it. Times on base, he leads it. Offensive win numbers, he leads it. What else does he lead? Power speed number, I don't even know what that means, he leads it. At bats per homer, he leads it. Base out runs added, no clue what that means, he leads it. Situation wins added, don't know how they calculate that, he leads it. Championship, WPA, never heard of that stat until just now, he leads it. Base out wins added, he leads it. I don't know what that stat means either. He leads traditional stats and stats I couldn't tell you what they meant in 1,000 years. He leads it. So no offense to Lindor, but it's Ohtani's. But Carlos Ortiz -5X, or whatever the hell the thing is. Just remember that Ohtani doesn't play the field and hasn't carried the Dodgers like Lindor's carried the Mets. All right. If you're going to put that much value on whether or not he ran out in the outfield with a glove every once in a while, that I don't know what to tell you. He's going to be back pitching next year, of which if he has anything close to the offensive year this year and is an adequate pitcher, then he is the MVP, and that's the end of discussion. But I don't, just because he doesn't run onto the field, I don't think that should disqualify him as he's leading every conceivable stat. But the last part of this statement, I have an issue with. He hasn't carried the Dodgers like Lindor's carried the Mets. He has. Glasnow has been hurt. Yamamoto has been hurt. Buehler has a wasted season. They dumped Paxton. Clayton Kershaw has had a wasted season. He's done. Their staff has been absolutely, and say it with me, folks, decimated. And for a big chunk of the second half of the season, the Dodgers bullpen was an absolute mess. It's really helped since the Kopech trade with Chicago, but they were an absolute calamity. And their pitching staff was just held together by wire. And not only that, but they played in the division with the Diamondbacks and the Padres, who for the last 2/3 of the season have been playing some of the best baseball in the league. And the Dodgers pitching staff has been absolutely ravaged. And by the way, another pitcher they don't have because of injury is Shohei Ohtani. Their bullpen was a calamity, and their starting pitcher was basically roll the dice. Do you know how many times with a decimated pitching staff and playing in a division with some of the hardest charging teams in baseball are? How many days do you think the Dodgers have spent out of first place this year? 0 games with a decimated pitching staff. Mookie Betts on the disabled list or the injured list for a big chunk of the season. Their outfield, with the exception of Teoscar Hernandez, has been a wasteland. 0 games where they aren't in first place. And the closest team got the mid-August. The lead was clipped to 2 games. And then the Dodgers put on the aft thrusters, and they're very clearly going to win the division. So I reject the premise. But I'm not going to reject the premise of wishing a happy birthday to one of the oldest living Hall of Famers. 88-year-old Bill Mazeroski is still with us. He was obviously a huge World Series hero, 10-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glove winner, Major League Player of the Year in what year was he Major League Player of the Year? He was Major League first team player, Sporting News Player of the Year, and obviously hit one of the most famous home runs in the history of baseball. I know some people are not thrilled that he's in the Hall of Fame, saying he didn't have this great number, didn't have that great number. He did hit the great home run. He probably should have been the World Series MVP that year, but they gave it to Bobby Richardson on the losing team. Was one of the best defensive second basemen of all time. Played in the 71 and 72 Pirate teams that made the postseason and were two of the most beloved teams in Pirates history. And when I was growing up, one of the great moments of the offseason for me was the publication of the Bill Mazeroski baseball preview, which had all the stats of every team and all the minor leaguers and all the minor league previews and everything. And I would get it and I would basically place it in my brain, suck it into my cranium. That's what I did because it was awesome. So I'm happy he's in the Hall of Fame because of that wonderful publication that he probably had nothing to do with, but he put his name on it. So when I saw the Bill Mazeroski preview was available at the newsstand, I knew baseball was right around the corner. So happy birthday, Mr. Mazeroski. Don't listen to the haters. You're a Hall of Famer. But it leads us to our trivia question. Obviously, Bill Mazeroski hit the home run that clinched the World Series, the first walk-off home run to end a World Series, and still the only Game 7 of the World Series to end on a walk-off home run. However, you can make a compelling case that it was not the most dramatic home run in that game. The Pirates had a wild 5-run rally in the bottom of the 8th to take the lead against the heavily favored Yankees. And the key moment of that rally was a 3-run home run by a backup catcher. Who was the backup catcher who was this close to being immortal, only to see the Pirates blow the lead in the top of the 9th and Mazeroski end the game in the bottom of the 9th? Who was the backup catcher who was almost immortal? That is your trivia question for today. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about Matt Chapman extended and a night of pitchers who are throwing masterpieces that the managers are like, that's enough of that. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.